Last week, I had the chance to speak with a French defense expert who had just returned from Burkina Faso. He recounted, trembling, "I went there on a mission to assess their military capabilities for a report to NATO. I expected to see an outdated army with obsolete weapons. But when they showed me their homemade drone taking off from the Sahel desert, I was stunned. It wasn't just an aircraft, it was living proof that Africa no longer needs us." The story he told me about the silent technological revolution in Burkina Faso is truly astonishing. So, what happened in Burkina Faso that so surprised Western defense experts? Why could a nation considered backward create technology that even many European countries still have to import? And most importantly, what does this mean for the future of Africa and the global balance of power? To understand why this is so shocking, we must go back to 2020. Burkina Faso was then in a state of severe security crisis. Terrorist groups from Mali and Niger were constantly attacking, displacing over 2 million people. The Burkinabè army had only 11,000 soldiers to protect a territory of 274,000 square kilometers, nearly the size of Italy. This ratio meant each soldier had to defend almost 25 square kilometers of land. The more serious problem was military technology. Burkina Faso was entirely dependent on weapons imported from France and the United States. While terrorist groups had begun using commercial drones for reconnaissance and attacks, the Burkinabè army could only rely on old surveillance planes and a handful of helicopters. The cost of a single helicopter flight hour was up to $3,000, while the entire defense budget was only $400 million per year. The situation became desperate as terrorist attacks increased from 158 incidents in 2017 to 630 in 2021. Nearly 5,000 soldiers and civilians were killed. Western countries offered their usual advice: buy more weapons from them, hire private military companies, or accept a long-term presence of foreign forces. For decades, international military experts asserted that modern military technology was the privilege of developed industrial nations. They produced analyses, reports, and recommendations that seemed irrefutable, all claiming that Africa needed to buy technology rather than produce it themselves. They were dead wrong, until Ibrahim Traoré appeared and completely changed the game. Ibrahim Traoré is not a conventional politician or a seasoned general. Born in 1988, he was only 34 when he took power, holding a bachelor's degree in geology and a master's in water resource management from the University of Ouagadougou. Before joining the army, he had worked in the mining sector and understood the importance of technology in the modern era. What is special about Traoré is not just his youth, but his innovative mindset and strong belief in the creative potential of the Burkinabè people. His rise to power occurred on September 30th, 2022, following the second coup in 8 months. Unlike traditional coups, Traoré did not seize power for personal ambition, but out of deep frustration with the deteriorating security situation. Western countries initially reacted coolly. The EU suspended aid, and France cut back its military cooperation. When Traoré assumed the presidency, his first message was simple but resolute. "We will no longer beg for scraps from anyone's table. We will create what we need to defend our country." But unlike the empty promises of previous politicians, Traoré had prepared a specific, scientific and achievable plan. Phase 1, named National Defense Technology Self-Reliance, spanned the first 6 months of 2023. The goal was to establish a domestic weapons research and development center with a budget of $50 million, just 1/8 the cost of a single F-16 fighter jet. The method was to mobilize the nation's best engineers and technical students and create a free, creative research environment. The necessary resource was not money, but talent and determination. The expected outcome was a prototype reconnaissance drone, designed and assembled entirely in Burkina Faso within 6 months. Phase 2, mass production, took place from July to December 2023. Building on the success of Phase 1, the goal was to scale up production to have at least 100 operational drones in the first year. The anticipated challenges were the supply chain for components and training personnel, but the solution was to collaborate with other African nations and leverage the network of technical students. Phase 3, export and cooperation, is planned from 2024 onwards. The long-term vision is to turn Burkina Faso into the defense technology hub of West Africa within 5 to 10 years. The international impact would be to change the balance of technological dependence between Africa and the West. Sustainability is ensured by heavy investment in STEM education and the creation of a high-tech ecosystem. And the most crucial element that made all the difference, it would all be done by the people of Burkina Faso, with the resources and intellect of Burkina Faso. No aid from NATO, no loans from the World Bank, no dependence on Western technology, no need for foreign experts, and then, on January 15, 2023, the miracle began. January 15, 2023 will be recorded as the day Burkina Faso changed forever. There were no loudspeakers urging action, no top-down propaganda, no threats or coercion. Just a simple message passed from mouth to mouth, from one university to another. The fatherland needs you. Come and make history with us. The response from Burkina Faso's youth was more immediate and powerful than even Traoré could have imagined. At the University of Ouagadougou's Engineering Center, the action unfolded like a silent revolution. 347 students from the mechanical, electrical, and computer engineering departments voluntarily registered for the project on the first day. They used the university's existing labs, their personal laptops, and electronic components bought with their own money. The immediate result was a complete 3D design of the first drone frame within the first week. The atmosphere on campus was like a science festival, with student groups staying up all night to exchange ideas and perfect the design. In the city of Bobo-Dioulasso, the country's industrial heartland, the unique characteristic was its abundance of skilled metal workers and mechanics. Amadou Sankara, a 45-year-old welder with 20 years of experience, said, "I have worked for foreign companies all my life. This is the first time I get to work for my own country, to create something we can be proud of. I am willing to work without pay for 6 months, if necessary." In a moving detail, he brought his 16-year-old son to the workshop to learn the trade and join the project. The local challenge was a lack of precision machinery, but they overcame it by crafting their own measuring tools and leveraging their long-standing manual craftsmanship. In the Fada Ngurma region in the east, participation was smaller, but the contributions were unique. The area has a tradition of metalworking dating back to ancient times, and local artisans contributed their exquisite manual metal shaping techniques. They connected with other regions through a simple communication system. Student volunteers acted as messengers on motorcycles, transporting blueprints and samples between areas. What was astonishing was not just the scale or speed, but the spontaneous spirit of unity among the people. Fatimata Ouedraogo, 23, a final-year electronics student from a farming family on the outskirts of Ouagadougou, was a top student on a full scholarship. Her motivation to join was, "My 19-year-old brother is serving in the army on the border with Mali. Every night, my family worries if he will make it back. If these drones can help our soldiers know the danger ahead and protect their lives, I am willing to put my studies on hold to participate." Her specific action was designing the remote control system and writing the navigation software. Her deep personal emotion upon seeing the first successful test flight. "It was the first time I saw a future for Africa that no longer depends on anyone else." But the Burkina Faso drone project was not just about emotion or spirit. It was about science, organization, and incredible operational efficiency. The distribution system was organized in a hub-and-spoke model, with Ouagadougou as the coordination center and 12 satellite centers in different provinces specializing in specific tasks. Work was divided by expertise. Ouagadougou handled main design and assembly, Bobo Dioulasso took care of metal fabrication, Koudougou specialized in electronics, and Tenkodogo was responsible for flight testing. Coordination was done through a simple encrypted messaging app and daily video meetings at 6 a.m. Conflicts were resolved by the principle of the common good above all, and an arbitration panel of 5 members elected from different teams. The simple technology used included self-assembled 3D printer kits, Arduino and Raspberry Pi boards, commercial cameras, and GPS modules. They leveraged available resources by reusing components from old electronic devices, metal from old car bodies, and batteries from motorcycle accumulators. The most notable innovation was developing propellers from recycled plastic that had performance equivalent to imported ones, but cost only 1/10 of the price. The communication system was a private social network created by the IT students themselves. Quality was ensured through a 7-step inspection process, from paper design to real-world testing. Measurement and tracking were done via a daily reporting system with 15 specific technical metrics. The adjustment and improvement process was based on user feedback and test results with a 2-week improvement cycle. Transparency was guaranteed by publishing weekly progress on the project website and allowing any citizen to visit the production workshops. A specific example, at the main assembly workshop in Ouagadougou, a team of 23 students and young engineers followed a 9-step process to create the first drone. Step 1 was designing the mainframe using open-source CAD software, taking 2 weeks. Step 2 was 3D printing the plastic parts, each taking 6 to 8 hours. Step 3 was fabricating the metal frame in Bobo Dioulasso, which was then transported back in 3 days. Step 4 was assembling the electronic systems, which took 5 days with 2 major bug fixes. Step 5 was installing the control software and running simulations. Step 6 was indoor flight testing with safety tethers. Step 7 was the first outdoor flight test on March 15, 2023. Step 8 was adjusting and perfecting based on real flight data. Step 9 was mass-producing the 2nd to 10th units. The measured results after 3 months. Flight time went from 0 to 45 continuous minutes. Control range from 0 kilometers to 15 kilometers. GPS accuracy from 50 meters down to 2 meters. And production cost from an estimated $50,000 to an actual $12,000 per unit. The first pilot, Moussa Traoré, a 24-year-old master's student in aeronautical engineering, said, "The first time I held the controls of a drone I had designed myself, I trembled as if I were holding a newborn baby. When it took off and I saw the images transmitted from the camera, I cried. It was the first time I saw my country from above with technology created by the Burkinabè people themselves. Now we no longer have to wait or ask anyone's permission to protect our country." June 28, 2023 will be remembered in the history of Burkina Faso and perhaps the world. It was the day the Ouagadougou 1 drone conducted its first real reconnaissance mission, detecting a group of 47 terrorists preparing to attack a village in Soum province, 15 kilometers from the Mali border. The information was relayed to the command center within 3 minutes, allowing military forces to respond in time and prevent the attack, saving 234 villagers. President Traoré at the scene of the historic test. "Today, we are not just testing an aircraft, we are testing the will of a nation. We are proving that Africans can not only use technology, but can also create it. From this day forward, those who wish to attack Burkina Faso will have to think again, because our skies now have eyes." But this was only the beginning of a larger revolution. Within the first 6 months, the tangible changes had stunned international experts. Economically, the domestic defense technology sector created 1,200 direct jobs for engineers, technicians, and skilled workers. The average income of participants increased by 340% compared to the national average. Burkina Faso saved $89 million in weapons procurement and foreign service costs in the first year alone. Foreign investment in the high-tech sector increased by 180%, with companies from India, Brazil, and South Africa seeking partnerships. The before and after comparison shows an incredible transformation. In 2022, Burkina Faso imported 100% of its military equipment. In 2023, it self-produced 67% of its reconnaissance drone needs. In 2022, the response time to security threats was 18 to 24 hours. In 2023, this was reduced to 2 to 4 hours. In 2022, the cost of border surveillance was $2.1 million per month. In 2023, this cost was just $340,000 per month. Socially, people's lives changed markedly as the sense of security improved significantly. The number of children attending school in border regions increased by 23% as families had more faith in the state's ability to protect them. The rate of people returning to areas previously abandoned due to terrorism reached 34%. The healthcare system improved as drones were also used to transport medicine and blood to remote areas. The security situation in major cities stabilized, with 41% fewer murders and robberies. Many citizens shared their feelings. Mrs. Salamata Sawadogo, a 54-year-old farmer in Yatenga province. Before, I only knew my son was studying at the university in the capital. I didn't know what for. Now I see him come home to work on these small planes that can fly in the sky to protect my village. For the first time, I understand why I had to send my child to school. Mr. Bukari Kabore, a 67-year-old retired blacksmith. All my life I made knives, plows, and hoes. Now I see my grandchildren building machines that fly. I feel like I've lived long enough to see our country's future. Globally, the reaction from international organizations showed surprise and a need for reassessment. The United Nations, in its latest report, acknowledged that the Burkina Faso model has challenged traditional assumptions about the technological innovation capacity of developing countries. The World Bank, for the first time, included Burkina Faso on its list of countries with high-tech export potential. The IMF changed its economic growth forecast for Burkina Faso from 1.2% to 4.7% for 2024. International development experts had to admit they were wrong. Dr. Sarah Mitchell from the University of Oxford, an expert on African development with 20 years of experience, confessed, "I taught my students that African countries should pursue their comparative advantage in agriculture and resource extraction. Burkina Faso has proven me completely wrong. They have leapfrogged from low-tech to high-tech without going through the intermediate stage." The international media was clearly divided. Western news agencies like the BBC and CNN were initially skeptical, calling it propaganda and unsustainable. But when independent reporters went to the scene and witnessed the reality, they had to change their tune. In contrast, media outlets in Africa, Asia, and South America reported very positively, hailing it as a historic turning point and an inspiration for the developing world. Academic research exploded, with over 200 scientific papers on the Burkina Faso phenomenon published within 6 months. Harvard University launched a new course, Technological Innovation in Resource-Constrained Contexts, with the Burkina Faso drone project as its main case study. MIT invited a delegation of Burkinabè students to present on frugal innovation. The international investment community reacted with astonishing positivity. The first venture capital fund dedicated exclusively to Africa was established with $500 million in capital, headquartered in Ouagadougou. Business angels from Silicon Valley began to take an interest in African tech startups. The market capitalization of the Burkina Faso Stock Exchange increased by 340% in 8 months. Within the African diaspora, the strongest reaction was a restored sense of pride. Dr. Kwame Asante, a Ghanaian-born professor at the University of Toronto. "For 40 years I've had to listen to disparaging remarks about Africa. Now, When my colleagues find out I'm African, they ask me about Burkina Faso with a look of admiration. Remittances and investments from the African diaspora increased by 280%. For the first time in history, there was a reverse brain drain, as over 1,200 engineers, doctors, and scientists of African descent decided to return to their home continent to participate in the African technological revolution. The movement of return migration from Europe and North America increased sharply. Musa Ouattara, a 31-year-old software engineer who used to work at Google in London, decided to return. I earned 10 times more in London, but here I can make 1,000 times the impact. I want my children to grow up in a proud and self-reliant Africa. So what can we learn from the Burkina Faso miracle? The story of Burkina Faso teaches us 7 important lessons that any community can apply to create technological breakthroughs and development. Lesson 1. The power of technological self-reliance. When Burkina Faso refused to depend on imports and decided to develop its own drones, they discovered an immense reservoir of hidden potential and creativity that no one previously believed possible. A specific example is their creation of recycled plastic propellers with performance equal to imported ones at 1/10 the cost, something international experts had deemed impossible. Universal application. This means any community can find innovative solutions from its own available resources and intellect instead of always looking for solutions from the outside. Lesson 2. The value of intergenerational solidarity. Burkina Faso's success did not come from a single genius or a group of experts, but from the collective strength of 15,000 people, from 18-year-old students to 65-year-old skilled workers, all working towards one goal. A specific example is the story of welder Amadou Sankara, 45, teaching his 16-year-old son his trade as they joined the project together, creating a perfect blend of experience and enthusiasm. Universal application. In any project or goal, combining different generations will create a multiplied force compared to relying on a single homogeneous group. Lesson 3. The importance of a clear and inspiring vision. Traoré didn't just have a short-term plan to build drones, he had a long-term vision to turn Burkina Faso into the Silicon Valley of Africa, helping everyone understand they were contributing to something much larger than themselves. A specific example is when student Fatimata worked through the night writing code. She wasn't just doing an assignment, she was helping to protect her brother and millions of her fellow citizens. Universal application. This teaches us that to mobilize collective power, you need a grand and meaningful vision, not just a technical or economic target. Lesson 4. The power of simple and appropriate solutions. Burkina Faso did not try to copy the state-of-the-art drones of the US or Israel. Instead, they developed drones suited to their specific conditions and needs: cheap, durable, easy to repair, and easy to operate. The result was a drone that was more effective in the harsh desert climate of the Sahel than more expensive models. Universal application. Instead of always seeking complex and expensive solutions, focus on simple but effective ones that are appropriate for the actual conditions. Lesson 5. The importance of persistent execution. Many nations have ambitious plans but failed because they cannot execute them. Burkina Faso succeeded because they had a clear implementation process, monitored progress closely, and persevered despite difficulties. A specific example is when the first drone crashed on its 7th test flight. Instead of being discouraged, they analyzed the cause and improved the design, leading to success on the 12th attempt. Universal application. A good idea is only valuable when it is executed persistently and continuously improved based on reality. Lesson 6. The value of maximizing available resources. Burkina Faso did not wait until they had enough money to buy expensive equipment. Instead, they creatively used everything they had, from components from old electronics, metal from old car bodies, and batteries from motorcycle accumulators. They proved that limitations are not an obstacle but a catalyst for creativity. Universal application. The most important resources are not money or advanced technology, but the determination, creativity, and unity of people. Lesson 7. Real change comes from ordinary people. The heroes of this story are not billionaires, politicians in fancy suits, or famous scientists. They are ordinary people like us, students, welders, young engineers, farmers, who dared to act instead of just complaining, who refused to wait for the perfect opportunity, and who built change themselves, step by step, day by day, one drone at a time. Ibrahim Traoré and the 15,000 citizens of Burkina Faso have proven that nothing is impossible when people are united and determined. They have turned audacious dreams into a living reality, transforming a nation forgotten by the world into an inspiration for all of humanity. From the small workshops in Ouagadougou, they have sent a powerful message. The future of Africa is not in the hands of other countries, but in the hands of Africans themselves. And this is true not only for Africa, but for every nation, every community in the world. If this story inspired you, please like this video so the algorithm can share it with more people, helping to spread this positive spirit. Share it with your friends and family so we can all believe in the power of people. Subscribe to the channel to follow more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Comment below to share your thoughts, inspirations, and your own ideas on how to create positive change. Let us celebrate the silent heroes of Burkina Faso and remind the world that the true power to change does not lie in the skyscrapers of Wall Street or the international conferences in Geneva, but in the calloused hands and passionate hearts of ordinary people with extraordinary dreams.